Hey everybody, this is Chris from Skuid. Welcome to Chapter 5 of our webinar series. Today we are continuing our work in the Design System Studio, and it's going to be a really awesome chapter because we're going to see probably the most significant change in the overall look of our app. We're going to get really close to our end design here that we're seeing in Figma. So as always, we're going to start Skuid Central, and you can go ahead and select all pages to be able to dig into your current page. I've already got mine open, but just as a refresher, you can just hit the little cogs or gears next to your page name, and that will take you straight into the App Composer, which is where we are now. So the other thing we're going to be focusing on primarily is the DSS, the Design System Studio. But at the end, we're going to come back in and start applying all those different styles to our components, which will be really exciting. You'll start to see kind of the manifestation of all that work that we've been doing in the DSS now in the actual Skuid page. So if you haven't already, you can go up here to Design and open Design Systems in a new tab. I've got mine already open. Just select the whatever design system you've been working in. And so from here, what we're going to do is start adding component variants that we need. So where we're going to pick up, if we look back at our design, we did some stuff already in Chapter 4 in terms of getting a lot of our variables created. So like our colors or borders and border radiuses and all, typography and all those kinds of things. And today we're going to focus on getting the tab set component, all these different text components, so those different colors and weights, as well as our wrappers. So the wrappers are what are making these tiles look so awesome, and also these white sort of large cards with the rounded borders here that are holding all the account and child account details, and then the list of parent accounts. So good little bit to work through today, but again, we're gonna get our page looking really, really close to what we see here, which is super awesome. So back to the design system, and we're going to start with the tab set. So if you go to components on the top left and then scroll down to tab set, we are going to, because we only have one tab set in this app, we're just going to change the default. So we don't need to worry about creating a new variant. All right, and let's see. Okay, so for the tab container, this is just like the component itself. And then down below, we'll see the tab. So that's where we adjust the properties for the actual tab and the content. We don't need to worry about the content for this particular design, but we're gonna focus primarily on the tab. So our tab container is actually fine the way that it is. So I'm gonna close that so we don't get confused and open the tab. And here's where we're going to start to make some changes. So our label font size, first of all, let's double check with Figma. Font size is 14. So let's go ahead and adjust our label font size to be 14. So we've already got that text variant. And our color is going to be that dark lavender. So we'll go ahead and change that. And so you can see this being reflected in the tab over here. This is the selected tab, and we haven't started modifying that yet. So you'll see changes primarily just in the non-selected tabs, and we'll adjust the selected tab here shortly. So our color, dark lavender. The background color is our very light gray. And where is that variant? Or light gray, I guess. There we go. And let's double check and make sure, because we might need a different variant there. It looks a little dark to me. Let's see here. FD, FD, FF. Let's go ahead and double check and see if that's in our variables, because we might need to add that. Is that light gray? Yep, just doesn't seem light enough. So let's add one, and yeah, let's just go with very light gray, because it is very light gray. All right, so paste that in from Figma. That's better. Yeah, we want this to be pretty subtle, and we want it to match our design. So let's add that color, very light gray. Let's jump back to our tab set. And now that color is, let's close tab container. That color is available to us as our background color. That's much better. Very, very subtle color there. So yep, let's keep going then. So background color is very light gray. And we might, as we're going through some of these designs like we just did, encounter some variants that we missed. But that's, as you saw, super easy to adjust on the fly, which makes this process really easy and also kind of fun too, because you're continually just getting to tweak and make sure you're lining up exactly to Figma's requirements. All right, so background color, now the border. And for the border, we are going to adjust the border bottom to be, I believe this is just a 1 pixel border. Yep. So back here, and the border bottom 1 pixel. Let's make that 1 pixel primary, and our border color. Okay, great. So now, actually, no, we need to do our tab itself, the hover state. So that is a little too thick there. So let's actually stick with, let's essentially just kind of turn that off, as it were. And now let's adjust the hover state of our actual tab, and the left, right, and top of our tabs themselves, because you can see here they're sort of boxed in, as it were. So for the top, we're just going to do our primary, and our border color. So you can see that just came in there. And then for our right, we're going to do primary, border color. There's our right side. And you see we still need to get our left. So let's do that. Just match our design border color. Awesome. Okay. So now we've got our tabs outlined like our design. And I'm going to, let's see, turn that off for now, the border bottom, because we aren't going to use that. We'll just let this one carry through. And then for the padding, we'll leave that as is. That's fine. And now let's adjust the hover state. So when we hover over these tabs, we want this to be a little bit cleaner. So we're getting that double border on the bottom, and it doesn't look great. So we want just a subtle hover on this. So the color of the text, you can see that changing to our brand primary 1. So it's a little bit darker than our brand primary. That actually looks good. I like that. And we're going to adjust, though, our border to be the primary and primary. This is just the 1 pixel and solid, and then border color. And so you can see how the border top isn't really changing. What we're doing is we're making sure that the hover borders are the exact same as the non-hover borders, so that the only thing that's changing is our internal text color. That's all we want. So we need to match these so that they aren't, moving around or anything like that. So border color, here's our hover. And for the border bottom, we're going to turn that guy off. Border left is primary, and border color. So now when we hover, there we go. The only thing that's changing is the text color in our tab, which is great. So we're going to leave that alone. And then our selected state, this is where, let's just double check Figma. We've got no border on the bottom here, so that it kind of conveys the tab is just the tab title is flowing down into the content of the tab. So let's adjust that. Again, this is our selected tab that we're seeing here. So if you click through, you can actually get like a preview of what all that's looking like. So back here, and close tab container, open tab again. Scroll down to selected state of the tab. And for our color, that's going to be our brand primary. I want that to be our that nice purple color. There we go. And the background color, we want to make sure this is white and not that light gray, and because we want it to match the content of the tab itself. And then for font weights, we're going to make that regular. And the border, we're going to add our, just making sure this is the same as what it is right now, except for that bottom. So we want to match everything that we've done. So border right, primary, border color. And then the bottom, we're going to do primary and we're gonna make this white to cover that up so you can see that open right there. And then border left, primary, primary, and border color. So now we've got that matching. So when I select that, yep, that is working great. Okay, so there's our tab component. There's a lot, tab sets kind of at first glance look like fairly straightforward, but as you get into it, you realize there actually are a lot of properties that you potentially are going to want to change for your design to have tabs look all sorts of different ways with regards to different borders or hover or selected states. So make sure as you're designing your tab, you're taking into consideration all the possible different states of that, the hover, the selected, the unselected state, which is great because there's a lot of control then over making sure you can deliver the design requirements for your tab set. So let's save what we've got so far, and we are going to move on to the table component. And the table component is what is holding all of our different opportunities for all of our child accounts. So let's jump over to table, which is actually right below tab set. And again, because we've only got one table, we're just going to adjust the default table so we're not having to point our table component in the app composer to a new variant. May as well just have it default to the one that we want. So for table, we are going to do a font size of 14 pixels. All right, so font color. Let's see, that was just our, I think that's our dark black. Let's just make sure. Yep, our 4444. So what we can do here, so there's this idea of functional colors. So brand colors are where we create all of our color variants, and then functional colors are things that come up often: border colors, font colors, background colors, that you can point to those variants. And so because our font for this whole design is always going to be that dark black, I'm just going to update this. So instead of searching for dark black, any component that's by default using the font color for its font is now going to be our dark black. So that's another easy way of kind of having a color cascade through without having to go and make adjustments everywhere. So now any component, again, that's like looking at a font color is going to now have our dark black color, which is great. So that'll save us some time. So let's go back to our table. And so that came through. So now font color is actually that dark black. So we don't need to adjust that, which is great. The font size though is that 14 pixels. So let's jump down and get that. And we don't want a border around our table. So we're going to say none. And our row height is fine as like that default. And let's see, the row properties of the table, you can see there's a ton of properties on table components. So for row, what we're going to do is between the cells border, so these vertical lines, if you notice in our design, we don't have any of those, so we want to make sure to turn those off. So for our row between cells border, I'm going to make that none. And let that do its thing. So between cells border, none. All right, and then that looks good for our table. So there we go. Let's save that. That's all we need for our table. And now what we're going to do is go through and create all the different text component variants. So these, the purple text here, this larger like title text for the accounts, smaller like KPI label or KPI content, the like account primary title and subtitle for the location. So a good bit of text variants, but let's just go through and get those created quickly. So for our design system, we are then looking for text, and we are going to create, let's just count real fast. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are the same, six variants. So let's start with that largest one, which we'll call H1. So we'll call that H1, and the one that I'm looking at is this kind of largest primary. So the font size is 24 pixels, and the colors are brand primary, and it is bold. So let's adjust accordingly. So text color, This time we don't want it to be that dark black. We want it to be our brand primary. So adjust that. We'll make our font weight bold, and the font size is 24 for that one, and that's all we need. So we'll create our next variant, call this one H2, and H2 will be this, so the label of our child account. So the color is our font color. Font size is 20 pixels, and it is also bold. So text color, we don't need to adjust font color because we had updated that variable already, so we know that that's our dark black, which is great. Font weight, bold, and font size is 20. So there's that one. And now let's do H3, just going down the list. So H3 is going to be our next largest, which is this, and that's 18 pixels, and also our font color and also bold. So H3 font color, bold, and font size is 18. So this is going pretty quickly. We don't need to worry about the rest of these for our particular styles. Those are the only things we need to adjust. So that's H3. H4 then is going to be this sub title, as it were. And here we're using our dark lavender color. We've got just a regular font weight or normal font weight and a font size of 14. So H4, text color, dark lavender. There we go. Font weight, regular, so that's fine by default, and then we'll switch this to 14 pixels. Okay. I'll save that. The other ones we need to grab though are those the KPI, the label, and that content. So the label here is our brand primary, 14 and bold. So let's create that, and I'm going to just call this KPI label, so we know exactly what that is. And brand primary, regular, and 14. Or actually, was that bold? Let's see. Yep, that was bold. All right, that's why Figma is so useful. It's nice to be able to flip back to that. Bold. Okay, so there's that one. And then our last text component variant is the content of the KPI tile. Oh, that's our runtime. This is, again, what we're shooting for, that finished state. So you can see dark black and a lot larger, but let's get those actual sizes by going into Figma. So dark black, 32 pixels, and normal font weight, so not bold. And we're going to call this KPI content. Text color is good, font weight's good, and this time we need our 32, which is actually our extra large variant. So just select that one. There we go. And that is KPI content label H1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, perfect. So now that we've got our text components, I'm going to save that. Making great progress here. And now we're going to do our wrappers. So the wrappers are, again, going to be how we get these KPI tiles to look the way that they do, and how we're getting like these white rounded cards. So now select wrapper in the DSS. We are going to create variants here because we've got several different wrappers. So just leave the default one, and let's create a wrapper for, let's see, where should we start? So in our runtime, one of the things that we did to just like differentiate a little bit between child accounts and the name of the child account is this line right here. And I actually like that. We added that from our design. It's not here in Figma, but I do want to replicate that. I think that's a nice visual hierarchy thing where we can see, you know, the difference between the two. And so the easiest way to do that is to create a wrapper with just a top border. And that's actually a great name. So we'll call this top border. And the only thing we really need to change here is we just need to give it a border on the top. So say primary, and border color. So there you can see our border color coming in. We don't need any padding for it. We'll create spacing for the components that are inside of this if necessary, but we really just want a wrapper that gives us that top border. So that one's good. Next, let's do these different page sections, these white wrappers, and let's take a look at the border radius. So it's 16 pixels and it's a white background, and that's what we'll create now. So let's call this page section. So our background color, do this white. Border is none. We don't have a border, it's just that white. But if you recall, we created that shadow variant back in chapter 4, that page section shadow. We are going to use that here. So there it is, but our border radius we have as 16. So let's select that. There we go. Okay, very cool. So that'll be our page section. The next thing is the KPI tile, and let's check that out. So it is an 8 pixel border radius, and that F5, F7, FA, that is our gray 1, I believe. So we'll double check that. Let's save the wrappers that we've got right now, and then check our gray 1 variant for our colors. Gray 1, F5, yep, that is the right one. Okay, so back to wrapper, and let's get these KPI tiles. I'm just gonna call that KPI tile. Background color, we're getting really close to where it gets super fun, which is when you're in the app composer and then pointing all these components to these styles and your page just starts coming alive. It's awesome. Gray 1, so there's our background, and then our border radius was 8 pixels. Right there. Perfect, and we are gonna have some padding here. Let's see what we're just gonna go for this top. It's 23 pixel padding. I think we have a 24 pixel variant. I like things divisible by 8. So let's do that. Padding all around, and increased is actually our 24 pixel. So there's some good padding. We don't really need to worry. I mean, we're doing it all around just for the sake of being even. Really, the content is just going to listen to that from the top and bottom. Our width is much greater than 24 pixels, but that's fine. We'll just keep this as 24 all the way around. That's the really important spacing right there at the top. So now that our wrapper has that padding, it's got our border radius, and we've got our background color. Let's go ahead and save that. And then the last thing we're going to adjust before we jump into the page itself here and start applying these, which is the really fun part, is the background of the page. And this is right, so the background of the page that'll blend into the Lightning experience and also make these white page sections pop. And so there is a page variant. Let's see, scroll past this. There we go, page. And we're gonna do a background color of, let's see what we've got here. Might need to tweak this a little bit for making sure it's just like the background in Lightning. So let me inspect this background on this page. And let's see here. What are we working with? Actually, oh, yeah. This is the, we need to create this one. We haven't created this yet. It's, I made a note of that we forgot to add this color variant. It's the F6, F6, F6. And so if we jump back into our design system, let's create our page background variant. And, whoops, page background. Don't forget the hash. All right, so page background, let's save that, and then we can go and apply that background to our page. So there's a couple different ways you can apply page background. You can do it here in the DSS, which is what we're doing, or you can just do it on the page itself. So in your app composer, if you select this top level page and you go to styles, there's a background property, and you can change this to an image or a color, and then just paste in your hex code there. What I like for this, why I like doing this in the DSS, is because if we ever need to change that or adjust that, I make a change here, and then it cascades through any application that's looking to that background. If I'm doing it in the app composer, I would need to go through and manually change that color. And remember, kind of all the pages that are using that as a background color. So a little bit easier just to have this centralized and in one place. So for the background color, I'm going to choose our newly created page background, which is right there. And we don't need to worry about any of those other variants. So let's save this. And we've created a lot of these, modified a lot of the styles on the default components here. So this, I know like our tab set and our table will change, and then we're going to go through and get our sort of our net new variants with the text components and other things. So let's refresh and see where we're at. Okay, so there's our page background, and you'll see now why we created those white wrappers with those border radiuses to create those page sections, because we'll need those. But page background looks good. Our tab set is looking good, and let's go ahead and then apply the style. So right now our text is just all that dark black, but there's we need different sizes, we need those colors, we need the bold, the regular, all that fun stuff. So this is where the page really starts to pop. And also, we're really done with this data, so let's just go ahead and clean that out at this point. We don't need that in our page. So delete that tab set component, and let's see. Okay, let's refresh our app composer. For some reason, it didn't like us deleting that. If that happens, just refresh your app composer, and we should be back in business. There we go. All right, so now what we need to do is apply the style variants to the components that are in our app composer. So let's just start at the top. So top left, select this wrapper, and for styles, we're going to point it to page section. This wrapper as well, make sure you select the outer one. We want that to be page section, and we'll save. And let's just take a look at what's going on here. All right, so our page sections are coming in. That actually looks awesome. That's really cool. We've got that subtle shadow. We've got our nice border radiuses. That white background is great, kind of ties everything together here. So let's go ahead then and update our text components. So this text that's the name of the account right here, and that was our H3 header, or H3 text is what we called it. Header 3. So styles and style variant H3, and then this one below is that H4, that the dark lavender, kind of smaller. That's great. And then for our KPI tiles, let's update those wrappers. We're also going to change the height on these, because these do have a prescribed height. Let's see what that is. 112 pixels. Okay, let's just get that in so that these start looking a little bit better. So for the wrapper properties, under height scrolling, we can do a fixed height, and we're going to say custom and 112 pixels per our design in Figma. I'm just going to copy that. Let's make sure I updated this. Nope, not yet. So change the style variant of the wrapper to KPI tile. And then for this Senkit wrapper, same thing. So KPI tile, height, fixed height, and custom, 112 pixels. And same for the third, KPI tile, height scrolling, fixed height, and custom, and 112 pixels. All right, let's save that and check what we've got here. So we'll have some text looking a little bit better up top, as well as our KPI tiles, which do not have any spacing in the columns. So let's adjust that. But this looks good. So there's our larger text, Nautilus Core Global, with our state coming in underneath there. But let's keep going to get this closer to our design. So the responsive grid, we can adjust the column gutter size. And I think this is the 16 pixel spacing. Yep, 16. So that is our regular spacing. So select column gutter size of regular. So that'll have that spacing created. And then this text component, this is really easy to remember. It's our KPI label. So let's update that. And we are going to get to the actual content of these KPI tiles, like those values. We're going to save that for the next chapter. It's going to be pretty cool getting some aggregations going. KPI label and KPI label. Perfect. So let's save. So now our tiles will have the proper separation between them, and we'll get that smaller brand primary purple color coming in. Very nice. Okay, that's looking good. So now I've got a few more things to update down here. So let's scroll down our page. The pipeline by stage and the child accounts, those are our H1. Those really kind of big primary text components. So let's do that. Start from pipeline by stage. The styles property, style variant, H1. So this is, again, as we're going through, I hope you can see kind of how powerful this is, because once you create a design system, once you have that, you're not having to create a design system every time you build a page. Obviously, you've already got it. So you're pointing your page at that design system, and then you're just, as you're dragging components down, you're able to point those to whatever style variants you've got. And this is where you can start moving super, super fast for all your pages moving forward, because you've already got that design. You're not having to kind of a la carte through the app composer and create, new variants every single time. You're just pointing those at those already created variants. And if you make any tweaks in the DSS, I can't emphasize enough how helpful this is. You tweak anything in the DSS, maybe H1 actually we realize needs to be a little bit bigger. Great, just adjust the H1 variant, save it, and it cascades through all your apps. Huge time saver, really great for scalability and consistency too. All right, so that's H1. And then the child accounts, this was our H2. Yeah, because it's a little bit bigger than H3. Okay, so child accounts, the name coming in for that child account, that text field, style is H2. And I'm actually realizing this is going to need 3 curly braces, because right now, you see how it's a link that's going to the actual account in Salesforce, and we don't want folks to link over to or leave this page, and that link is kind of confusing because there's no reason for them to do this in that design. And so the way to again, as we've done before, to kind of strip that out is to go 3 curly braces on that merge field. So make sure we do that. So now our text component, it'll have that stripped out. The style is H2. Our tab set was default and our table was default, so we don't need to worry about those. So let's save and refresh our page. All right, so this is now getting really close to our finished look. So some things, just some housekeeping things that we want to clean up a little bit. We don't need this footer row in our list component. That doesn't look great, and we're just going to bring in all of our global accounts anyway, so we don't need to see this particular list. And we can adjust the add case button. The hover state obviously needs to be fixed. And the view cases, we need to change that button. This is the utility button. You can see we modified the search filter. So we're gonna also need to modify our utility button to just blend right into this and match the design, where this is kind of just a seamless look. But first, let's get that list fixed. And so under the list component for display, we don't need to show the page size drop down. And for other, we don't need the load more button or the footer, so just untick those boxes. Let's save that and go back, refresh. So this stuff should be disappearing down there, and it is. Okay, awesome. So that's all we're gonna tackle today. For the next chapter, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in the values of our KPI tiles. We're gonna do an aggregate query on pipeline to bring back all of our total amounts. And then we're also going to look at all of our open cases and how many child accounts are on a particular account hierarchy. So great work today. This is a ton of fun. I love the design system. And again, this is the first time we've ever done sort of a deeper dive through what it looks like to build out a design system and apply it with Skuid. And it's just extraordinarily powerful in terms of how you can really match design requirements that are given to you. So you can see we were able to in the DSS today replicate everything that was given, from the border radiuses and the colors and the sizing and the spacing and all those fun things, and able to deliver then a design, an app, a functional app that matches that design, which is really cool. So for the next chapter, again, besides the KPI stuff, we'll clean up our buttons and we'll basically just kind of put that last little polish on it, which includes spacing between these text components. You can see here there's much just better spacing. It's letting the page breathe a little bit more. So we'll focus on that and do kind of a wrap up and clean up from there. But really excited about this. This is looking really, really good. And we will dig into finishing up this whole application and deploying it in Lightning in chapter 6, our last chapter. Thanks, everyone.